Across the Spiderverse is one of the most incredible movies I've ever seen. Here's exactly why the movie was so good. First off, the plot of the movie was unpredictable. It was complicated and it forced you to be actively engaged constantly throughout the whole movie just to try and understand what was happening. For me, I felt like they matched the voice actors perfectly to the characters that they designed. Sometimes the wrong voice actor choice can let the movie down a bit, but I feel like no mistakes were made here. Gwen, Miles, Hobie, Pav, The Spot, Miguel, Peter B. Parker, just great, strong choices all around. It left the movie with no room to go wrong. The range of dynamics in the dialogue in this movie was impressive. I mean, the writers managed to mesh entertaining, captivating, and serious all in one movie. I mean, you've got Gwen having very deep and heavy conversations with her dad, while then jumping over to funny jokes and insults between Spot and Miles in their first fight. Then we get relatable and personal conversations between Miles and his parents. Then we get high-stake and intense arguments between Miles and Miguel. Some movies try to be just funny or just serious, but this movie I felt had a great balance. The art in this movie was just sick. I feel like you could pause the movie on almost any still shot and blow it up as a huge painting on your wall in your house and it would look incredible. The amount of additional thought and time and creativity that went into almost every single shot in this movie did not go unnoticed. I mean, just look at a few of these snapshots of the movie I picked at random. Even if this movie was muted, it would have still been spectacular to watch. And a huge credit to the animation team, because sometimes days or even weeks of work can go into just a few seconds of screen time, so to put 2.5 hours onto the screen was just incredible. I'm sure many of you would have noticed that every single different world within the Spider-Verse had a different art style. We had that pastel-y watercolor paint and vibe going on with Gwen, and then a sharper, more lifelike style in Miles' world, and then a different style in Mumbattan, and then a different style in Hobie's world, and then the Lego world, and then that brown papery vulture at the start of the movie. The animators didn't have to go this extra mile, but they did to emphasize the difference between the worlds and give us a better viewing experience. Don't even get me started on the soundtrack of this movie. Metro Boomin, A$AP Rocky, Lil Wayne, Sway Lee, Offset, Don Toliver, 21 Savage, James Blake. They did not skimp on picking high quality artists, and these artists did not disappoint. The songs on the soundtrack fitted the Spider-Verse vibe so well. The movie felt good quality and cool because it had good quality and cool artists. And the score of this movie by Daniel Pemberton was just so good. He does an incredible job of telling you how to feel throughout. We've got that awkward and rushed music during the first fight with Spot, and then the super intense music when Miles is escaping from Miguel and finding out he's an anomaly. And then that super creepy, eerie music when Miles is finding out he's in the wrong universe. And then that dangerous build-up as the Prowler Miles comes into the light and reveals his face, which slowly and perfectly transitions into the Spot theme in the background, and then builds up into Gwen's drums, giving us hope as she teams up to save Miles. The thought that went into that last track in particular, just incredible. Miguel has his own sound, Gwen has her own sound, and if anyone has noticed, that little guitar lick is actually a sped up version of the original Spider-Man theme. The pace of this movie was just really, really good. It had enough action in it that made you not want to look away or go on your phone, but when it was just the characters talking, it was all relevant and you actually had to listen for the plot to make sense. The directors did a really good job of cutting out all the fat in this movie. Each character was going on their own journey. Spot went from a goofy, harmless outcast to the biggest threat in the multiverse. Miles grows up a lot in this film and becomes a lot more confident in his abilities, his potential, and his responsibilities as Spider-Man. Miles also is forced to figure out where he stands morally as very large situations and decisions are just thrown at him. No one predicted that the villain of the movie would be such a goofball at the start. No one predicted that Spider-Man would not win at the end of the movie. No one predicted Miles being the Prowler. No one knew what different spider people Miles would encounter, and no one could predict the huge moral dilemma that Miles would have to face with his dad. We still aren't sure where Miguel's character is going to lead, or if Miles is going to get home. We aren't sure if his dad is going to die or what will happen with Spot. I feel it's this level of creative unpredictability that made the movie so intriguing. On top of all of this, I also thought it was funny. Spot standing awkwardly while introducing himself with bread falling out of his belly hole. Having Miles' parents in a serious meeting with the school while Miles and Spot are just cartwheeling across the sky behind them. Being in a serious battle and Spot just hitting them with, "I love JT." Peter parked car, the therapist Spider-Man, the Spider Cat, the pointing meme on a grand scale. These little funny moments were seeded throughout the whole movie, and I think the directors were able to do it without being cringy at all, like A+. Ending the movie on a cliffhanger is not only an exciting way to end the movie, but also a really clever storytelling and marketing technique. Because as we've all seen, Avengers Infinity War left everyone on a huge cliffhanger, and that excitement and suspense for the sequel definitely helped push Endgame into the second highest grossing movie of all time. I mean, I'm certainly going back to the cinemas to find out how this story ends. I feel like they really upped the ante from the villain in the first movie, who just started off as the bad guy and died as the bad guy and didn't really have a solid reason for it. I love that you actually get to see Spot's entire character development from just a normal hurt victim of an explosion to someone who feels like he has to give himself more power so that he doesn't get laughed at anymore. He's been bullied and he doesn't want to be treated like a joke anymore. And now he's a major threat to the multiverse and an ultra-powerful being. The writers did a great job of showcasing Spider-Man's full abilities. Gwen and Miles sitting upside down on the building ledge, all of the standing and running on the walls, the flipping and weaving through the cities and worlds, the swinging scenes, even Gwen having her own unique gymnastic style of swinging, the spider sense actually working, the super quick reflexes to transition from Spider-Man to Miles Morales and back again. Even that giant robot spider who built the Go Home machine was very intentional. The powers of Spider-Man were cleverly and deeply embedded throughout the whole movie. There were several very close details that you had to pause the movie to actually spot, like little Easter eggs. If you pause the movie for a second during Miles' vision of the future, you can see the Spot standing over hundreds of dead Spider-Men. If you pause for a second in the flashback of Miles' spider coming from Earth 42, you can see 42 Miles sitting at his desk. When Rio sarcastically asks if anyone has any more Spot jokes, several other Spider-Men yell them out, but you have to pause the movie to actually read them. This might be the stupidest thing ever, but I feel like the product placement actually made the film feel more real. Seeing the characters wear Sony headphones and Nike shoes and drive Hyundai cars made the film feel like it wasn't just some pretend animated cartoon. It felt like it was maybe a real world or another multiverse reality where they have these brands there too. Also showing Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in the film pulled this movie into reality just that little bit more. Anyway, I'm probably gonna go watch it again. Anything I missed, chuck it in the comments.